And protests right here in Europe as well. Tens of thousands have gathered in the German city of Munich in protest against the rise of right-wing extremism. The Sea of Lights rally is the latest in a series of demonstrations organized by civil society groups to counter racism, anti-Semitism, and hate speech. Chancellor Olaf Scholz has previously spoken out against the rise of the far right in Germany. Joining us now is our political correspondent, Julia Saudelli. Julia, this is not the first protest of this kind over the past several weeks.
Yes, we've seen up to 2 million people take to the streets in Germany over the last 3-4 weeks across the country. We've seen big demonstrations here in the capital, in Berlin too. And what they're calling for is for a fight and going against a lot of the rhetoric that they see coming from the far right, and also specifically from a party in the German parliament, the AfD. And they are also calling on the other parties within the parliament to act as a defensive wall against the AfD coming into power. They ask the other parties to not form alliances with the AfD and to push back against this party's rhetoric, but also its policies. And today is another example of one of these demonstrations calling for democracy, calling for human rights. And we've seen a lot of people bringing lights and flashlights to show that they are a sea of light in Munich right now.
There have been parties on the right in Germany for quite some time, but this is a sustained form of resistance, if you will. What's compelling all these people to take to the streets all across Germany now?
On the one hand, we've seen the AfD party rising significantly in the polls, and especially in certain parts of Germany, in certain states in eastern Germany, they might come into government in the next votes that are happening this year. And that has prompted some fear among a lot of people in Germany. But also there has been an investigation that has pointed to a meeting that occurred between some members of the AfD and members of neo-Nazi groups. And they were talking about plans for a so-called remigration, which would mean deporting people with foreign roots, also German citizens, away from the country. And this has really caused a lot of fear in people in Germany.
Have these protests had any effect whatsoever?
Well, we've seen a lot of members of civil society, but also CEOs of big German companies also participating in these demonstrations, saying that the rise of the far right would really damage Germany and the German economy. We've also seen the AfD starting to drop a bit in the polls. They have dropped around 4% in the last few weeks, and analysts say this has to do probably also with these protests and people realizing that maybe voting for a far-right party is not really what they want. There is also a new party that showed up in the German party landscape that might have taken some votes away, but the protests seem to also be having an effect.
DW political correspondent Julia Saudelli, thanks as ever.